Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. I have been working on a sort of a Christmas quilt. It doesn't have to be for Christmas, but today is block number 8. It's right here, really pretty block. Let's get started. Today's block begins with quite a few 2.5-inch squares that I'll be making half square triangles with. I'm also using some 2-inch squares, a 3.5-inch square for the center, and these pink squares are 4 inches, and they are for those corner triangles. I put my sets of squares together that I'll be making into half square triangles. I need 3 groupings of these squares, and all of this information is in the pattern that I will have linked below. It will be free for a limited time, and then when this quilt is complete, I'll put all of those patterns together into one booklet. The booklet will be available in the future in my Etsy shop, and the link will be below. I'm making quite a few half square triangles. I'm putting right sides together, drawing a pencil line, and then putting a seam on both sides of that pencil line. This is my first one, and after I make this first one, I will chain piece all of the rest, and I will not be using a pencil and ruler. I think I'll just be able to eyeball that pencil line, and I'll sew on both sides of the imaginary pencil line. It usually works out pretty good. I do cut my squares just a tiny bit, a hair bigger than 2.5 inches, to give me a little wiggle room when it comes time to trimming them. And after pressing my half square triangles open, here I'm actually cutting them in half. I have all the seams in. I'm going to cut them in half. Then I'll press, and then I will trim to 2 inches. This quilt contains a lot of half square triangles. All of the sampler blocks have quite a few half square triangles, and I think that gives a cohesive feeling to the quilt design. All of the quilt blocks have that element, and it kind of helps them blend together. I have my half square triangles made. They're all 2 inches, and I'm going to set them aside. I'm going to take my 2-inch squares and my 2.5-inch red squares that were set aside here. I'll be cutting the red square in half, and I'm going to make some shaded 4-patch blocks. I need 4 of these for this quilt block. Beginning with the 2-inch square, I'll take one of those triangles and I will attach it to one side of my square. I'll open that up and try to keep the red, the seam towards the red fabric, and then I will add the other triangle to the other side to make sort of that larger triangle for this quilt block. have all my triangles made, so now I'm going to cut my 4-inch pink square in half. I have 2 squares here, so I'll have 4 triangles for the shaded 4 patch, and I'll put these 2 triangles together to make that block, and then I will double check that it is 3.5 inches when I have everything sewn together. Pressing my little blocks here, I did double check that they are 3.5 inches, and they are very close, so I'm only trimming away just a really tiny piece of fabric. I just want to double check before I start putting everything together. I have everything I need now for my quilt block. I'm going to begin with that 3.5 inch square in the center. I'll make a simple star and then I'll work around that. My block is all laid out. All I need to do now is sew everything together. There will be like I said, the instructions for the block, the cutting amounts, and a diagram also for when you put your pieces together. And for a period of time, it will be free in the description box, and then after that time, when I have everything together, I will add a link for the Etsy shop where you'll be able to purchase the pattern, the whole pattern for the entire sampler quilt called Tiny Blessings. Like I said, this is block number 8 of this sampler quilt. Each block measures 12.5 inches, and so far we've been making 2 quilt blocks for every pattern. I'll make 2 quilt blocks, and this last one I will only need 1 of this particular block. It's called Star and Chains, and then next time we get together and talk about this quilt, I will be sharing how to make the alternate block, and we'll need to make quite a few of that alternate block before we move ahead and begin putting this quilt together. There are 15 sampler quilt blocks, then there's an alternate block, and then I'll be adding sashing and cornerstones in the coming weeks. This is a really beautiful quilt block. I love the red and green, and then I added the white and just a little bit of pink in all of the blocks. Thank you for sewing along with me on this Tiny Blessings sampler quilt. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm looking forward to adding just a couple more elements to this quilt. We've got now we have 15 quilt blocks, 2 of every sampler block except for today's. Next time we'll make the alternate block, and then in the future we'll put them all together. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next time.